Good morning. This is what I'm reading right now. Hopefully that's not showing up backwards to you guys, but just in case, this is Breath by James Nestor. His last book was Deep. That was one of my favorite books for ever. I will probably reread that, maybe be talking to you guys about it one day. But so I've actually I think I'm halfway done with the book, by the way, but I backed up a little bit, so I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about one of the first chapters. It is mind-blowing. So one of the main things, I wrote a few notes just to let's see. Basically, our breathing has gotten worse over the industrial age. Through the shape of our mouth, crooked teeth, kind of like mine, that is all due to the way we breathe. And there's a lot of different studies on this. I mean, it's a number of things, actually. So part of it has to do with us not chewing as much. You know, in the industrial age, we had softer food. So we're not chewing as much. We're not using our mouth. Our mouths are getting, our palate is going further into our nose and constricting our airways. And we can't breathe through our nose as much. So, and mouth breathing is actually proven to be actually really bad. In fact, in the first couple chapters, he is doing an experiment and he measures all his levels, and basically he's got higher levels of hypertension, all this other stuff, all due to this. In the in the experiment, he plugs his nose up and he's only mouth breathing for a long time. So basically, some of the things I wrote down was 40% of the population suffers from nasal obstruction, which is pretty crazy. And a lot of this comes from, once again, soft food. Our palates have been moving up, so the size of our teeth has stayed the same, but our mouths are smaller, so that's why all our teeth are bunched up. Pretty crazy, interesting stuff. Our ancestors had wider mouths from chewing, because we were chewing a lot of stuff. So now we have softer foods, which is easier to digest, but in the long run, it's kind of screwing up our faces. Basically, what he starts to talk about, which is really funny, is our evolution has nothing to do with survival of the fittest anymore, because we live such a comfy life these days. We have whatever we want anytime we want. So, one of the things I talk about, because what I like to tell people is, we basically, in the time of overabundance and comfort, putting yourself through stresses is more important than ever. Basically, what he talks about is disevolution. Our bodies we're de-evolving because we are not testing ourselves enough. We live too comfortable, which is why most of the population is overweight, and that is actually why obesity is one of the leading causes of death. And that's one of the things I want to start to help people with. And in fact, I'm going to do one of my first coaching sessions today of teaching someone or doing some yoga and meditation with a friend of mine who had a heart attack not too long ago. So he was ready to change things. So we're going to do that. Yeah, so basically breathing through our mouths causes a lot more, gets to backaches, feet hurt, bones are more brittle, things like that. And some of the most compelling studies was a rat study where they obstructed the nasals of these rats, and the rats basically took longer to get through mazes, and they had slower brain growth. And the same thing happened not the same thing, but something very similar happened in an ape study where they obstructed their nasals, and the apes started getting more deformed. They started having, getting that more V-shaped palate, bags under the eyes. Their faces got a little more deformed. But then once they unobstructed it, within 6 months or so, they started going back to normal. Pretty crazy stuff, man. So I hope you guys learned something today. And just remember, nose breathe. I've already read this. Later on in the book, it basically talks about nose breathe, never breathe through your mouth. There's even studies with in athletic performance, less breaths through the nose are almost more, or actually more nourishing than then twice as many breaths out of the mouth. Something along there, something around there. It's pretty crazy stuff. Doesn't feel right, but I have been doing it when I work out and when I do jujitsu and whatnot, and it seems to be working. So I feel like my energy's been really good. Yeah, I hope you guys like the video. Check out my YouTube channel. Hopefully I will, I'll probably include some of this information in future videos, but we shall see. Have a great day. Have a great day, guys. I'm trying to get words out talking on this thing,